Guys, Godfather of Anxiety here. Just wanted to do a short video about the danger of isolating ourselves if we have clinical depression or if we have an anxiety disorder. It is especially important if we are in one of those categories or we're predisposed to having clinical depression or one of the anxiety spectrum disorders. It is especially important that we resist the urge to isolate. Now, we don't have to look too far back to see the damages done or the damage done by isolating ourselves and through isolation. The pandemic was, made it very evident how important social interaction is to human mental health. We are social creatures, and without that, we go downhill from a mental health standpoint extremely rapidly. So with that still fresh, I think, on a lot of people's minds, I think that it will be, hopefully a lot of people will realize exactly how damaging isolation can be to mental health. But for those of us with clinical depression or one of the anxiety disorders, it can be really difficult to resist the temptation to isolate yourself, because let's just take my example, what happened to me. I started having panic attacks, and your mind, you'd be shocked at how quickly your mind makes that association. Like your mind thinks you're in a life or death situation when you have a panic attack. That's why you have the panic attack. And you will, if it's a social situation where you have that panic attack, or you're with people when you have it, you'll be amazed at how quickly you want to be by yourself or be away from the place or the people where your first panic attack happens. And it's amazing how quickly this develops. This happens with other anxiety disorders too, not just panic disorder, but generalized anxiety, situations that make us uncomfortable. And that is definitely something that's how avoidance behaviors develop, right? So you don't ever want to react to either anxiety or depression through isolation, because it's not going to solve the issue. It's going to exacerbate it. It's going to make it worse. So what happens, just, I've done videos that are going to be way more extensive than this one. But guys, when we isolate ourselves, what's going to happen is very quickly, you're going to realize that when you are forced to interact socially or to be around people, if you've been isolating yourself, that's going to really up your anxiety. So, at first, maybe I could make an analogy like this. At first, you're scared of a lion or a tiger. If you isolate yourself, you'll be scared of a kitten. That's how that happens. And you'll be having panic attacks over leaving the house. This is how agoraphobia develops. Isolation is horrific for anxiety conditions. It's no better for depression either. Depression, what happens with depression is you feel like almost like an alien. You don't feel like yourself. So because of this, you don't really want to be around people when you are either in a state of despair or emptiness, or when your emotions don't seem to be functioning correctly. I mean, let's face it, most of the time when we spend time with people, it's because we enjoy their interaction. We enjoy it can be give and take. It doesn't all have to be, rainbows and butterflies. There can be people that we enjoy their company and we disagree with them frequently, right? Or, whatever the case. But just the interaction and the exchange of ideas and the exchange of emotion ends up being something that is really beneficial to the human psyche and to our our overall mental health. So, it's just so important not to, I made another short video recently about, getting busy, doing things again as winter here is ending, getting out and getting active. Socially, it's every bit as important to get out socially and interact with others. And I wanted to make sure that I made that point clear, because I think a lot of people, if you're like me, it's not intentional isolation, but in the winter, especially the type of winter that we had up here in upstate New York this year, it's hard to be as socially active as you would normally be, just because you don't want to go out of the house. And so just make sure that you force yourself to interact with people and force yourself into social situations. Now, the one thing I will mention is, if you're in a severe clinical depression right now, or if you are, have a very, an anxiety disorder that's not being treated, this is going to be really hard. Okay. So what you would want to do in that situation, first of all, if you're not getting treatment, get treatment. But the other thing you want to do is take it slowly and gradually. So you don't go to a huge venue, you don't go to a concert hall, or, maybe even the grocery store on a busy day might not be that great of an idea. Maybe you want to go, shortly before they close, or whatever the case. The point is, and this is the line that you're going to have to walk through recovery too, is you don't want to, do the equivalent of base jumping with socialization, but you also don't want to isolate. So try to keep stretching out in that way. If you've been avoiding the phone or talking to a relative on the phone, call them up. Talk to them for 5 minutes. You don't have to, discuss your life's history. Of course, face-to-face interaction is much more beneficial than internet, FaceTime, telephone. So you want to make sure you do that as well, because that's just the way we were designed. It's not that the technologies aren't amazing and so beneficial to help us communicate with people who are far away and stay in touch, but it should not be our primary way of communicating with others. It's just not how we were designed. We have 5 senses for a reason. Getting a hug from a loved one, that will lift you up. That will make you feel better in a way that FaceTiming someone just won't do, And they've even done studies. I mean, some of the studies were not very ethical, and there's a lot of hyperbole out there, but it has been shown through a variety of studies that, even children in an orphanage who just get some attention, some physical touch, some interaction, do vastly better than children who are severely neglected. So that's just the way we're designed as humans. So, if you are clinically depressed, or if you are suffering pretty badly from an anxiety disorder, be gradual with your interaction. I'm not telling you to, to go someplace where you're going to meet a large amount of people, or not have any way to remove yourself without being conspicuous. These are things that could trigger panic attacks, and you don't want that, because that will be a setback. But it will also be a setback. It will make room for avoidance behaviors, and eventually possibly even agoraphobia if you isolate yourself. And in both of those situations, I would like to see how many people, whether it's anxiety or depression, I would like to see how many people would still be with us if they hadn't isolated, especially in the case of depression. People have this tendency they feel dead inside, and they just remove themselves from everyone else's life, and they're thinking, it doesn't matter, I don't matter to anybody, nothing matters, I don't feel anything. And the thing is, if they didn't isolate themselves, they would be forced to confront the fact that other people do care about them, and it the damage done when someone chooses to take their own life is irrevocable. You just just seeing it personally, things that people that I've seen who've had to deal with that, they're never the same. Every one of the people that does that was loved, they were needed, they were cherished, and they had a mental health condition that made them isolate and not realize that how important they were to everyone around them. And this hits really close to home for me. I've had a recent experience with this, and it's make sure you tell people how you feel about them. I will just say that. And if you're depressed, do not isolate yourself. Don't do it. Again, you don't have to spend 24 hours a day with other people, but make sure you spend some time with others, because you need to. And spend time with people that that love you, that care about you, and also that'll be honest with you. And I've also told you guys this. Don't keep your mental health issues a secret if you are not doing well. I mean, let's think about it. Like in the case of men, you're going to let your pride make it so that you end up taking your own life? I mean, does that make sense? That makes no sense. Should a man rather, choose death over admitting that they're not coping well with their mental health? Does that make sense to anybody out there? I hope it doesn't, because that's ridiculous. That's not intelligent. It's not logical. And we lose people to this because they feel like it's such an admission of weakness. So, guys, don't isolate yourself. If you have an anxiety condition, don't isolate yourself. If you have depression, don't isolate yourself. If you are clinically depressed badly, or you are anxious badly, be very, pick and choose, but don't allow yourself not to. Pick and choose your level of socialization, short trips to stores, a phone call to a relative, visiting a relative that lives close by, make sure you do it. Make sure you do it, because another thing with anxiety in particular, wow, is agoraphobia horrible, because it makes everything bad about anxiety worse. You don't want to be around people because of, you're worried about having panic attacks, but you also don't like being by yourself. And then you isolate yourself and everything triggers a panic attack. I still remember, I'm going to wrap this video up, but I still remember being on my couch, sitting there basically in the fetal position, having panic attack after panic attack, when my avoidance behaviors had just, gotten to the point where else could I go? There was no safe place to go, right? My wife was my safe person. My house was my safe place. And there I was with my wife maybe next to me. I'm in my house, and I am just having panic attack after panic attack. So that's about all I wanted to say. Guys, make sure you don't isolate. Make sure you get out there and socialize. And again, I'm not saying, you have to be a social butterfly, but do not neglect, the importance of us as human beings needing that. We need that. And we don't just need FaceTime. We don't just need, telephones. We need to embrace. We need to shake hands. We need to see how a person is reacting to what we say and how we react to what they say. And that's human interaction, 5 senses. So anyways, that's about all I have to say for this video. Guys, thanks so much for the engagement. It's been great. Get out there, enjoy the warmer weather as it starts to come here. Remember, life is meant to be lived. But guys, thanks so much. And until my next video, take care.